Dave Scott Hub Media audio podcast version. I'm with Lyn Cornfield from Simcoe, and we're going to talk about the CIBC Run for the Cure, which is happening October 3rd in the Simcoe area. If you check out the Facebook page, there's lots of different 5-kilometer routes you can sign up for and get involved and help out with the CIBC Run for the Cure this year. Lyn, you've got a really interesting story. Can you take a few moments and share it with us about your cancer experience?
Okay, I can do that. Today is a great day. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and it's a lovely fall morning. And I wanted to be part of this audio because I think it's important for information to get out there about women who have had breast cancer and have made it through. And so the first thing that we need to talk about is how this all happened. Mm-hmm. And it starts way back in 1978 with my mother being diagnosed with breast cancer at age 59. She died 2 years later at age 61, and I really feel that her diagnosis was much too late in coming. I'm not sure about mammograms in those days, so I don't even know if she'd ever had one. She found the lumps herself. So right after that, my sisters and I started having annual mammograms at age 40. That was part of the protocol when you have breast cancer in the family, and it still is the case. So let's fast forward 31 years. 31 years of having annual mammograms, and in February of 2021, just this year, I was diagnosed with a cancerous tumor. And I had a biopsy right quick away, and I also got appointments with 3 oncologists in Durginsky Cancer Center in Hamilton in March. So everything was happening pretty quickly. 2 weeks later, I had surgery, and the pathology report came back 3 weeks later that a 5-millimeter tumor had been removed. 2 non-cancerous lymph nodes were removed. And I recuperated for about 3 weeks after the surgery. Then I met with my chemo oncologist and started my chemo treatment in May. I was pretty lucky because the tumor was so small and everything was looking good in the area of the tumor. I only had to have 4 chemo treatments, which is pretty minimal compared to some people.
Yes.
That took me through to the middle of July. And then I met with my radiation oncologist and ended up with 9 treatments with the team there during the month of August. Everything was finished up by mid-August, and now I just sit and wait for my first mammogram follow-up, which is in February. I'm feeling great. I don't have any issues at the moment, and so I think everything in that part went pretty well.
That's really cool that you've come so far so quickly and catching it so early. And you talked about your mom's diagnosis and maybe not having those opportunities. Maybe obviously it was probably too late. I gotta ask a couple quick questions. Your mindset, getting to know you this last month, you're seeming like such a positive person. And you've told me in sort of our conversations, your mom was kind of that person too. I think that has a lot to do with it, don't you?
Yes, I do. I've talked to many different people who are in the cancer business or who have had cancer, and they all say that a positive attitude is 90% of your recovery. So I've always been that way. I don't have negative thoughts unless there's real need for negative thoughts. And I don't think anyone really knows how they will react when they hear those words, "You have cancer." Yeah. So for me, I probably reacted differently than a lot of people because I almost expected it because it was in my family. And I'm one of those people that believes that cancer is inside all of us somewhere. It's just whether it manifests itself. Wow. And the statistics say that 1 in 8 women get breast cancer. So, I'm just an optimist about the whole thing. And I never had stress. I was never anxious. I was never depressed throughout this 8 months. I put my trust in the doctors and the process that they put me through. I know before today, Dave, you and I talked about the Juravinski Cancer Center itself, and it was my choice to go there as opposed to anywhere else, because I know a lot of people who've been there and have gone through it. Every single person we met there was friendly, caring, upbeat, all the time, always smiling, but always professional as well. So it didn't matter who I was meeting, whether it was the person at the front door that screened you, or whether it was the doctors or the nurses in chemo, or the technicians in radiation. It didn't matter. Everybody was so helpful and so caring that you felt safe, and you felt that you were getting the best possible care that you could get.
And I put in perspective too, you're going through cancer during a pandemic. So you need that support too as well. Like I know George, your husband, was right there with you every step of the way. And can you talk for a minute about how important that was to have that, and just your friends too reaching out to, you couldn't be right with them, but they were reaching out to you, weren't they?
Well, yes, indeed. COVID sort of threw a loop into this whole support team process on a personal level, because you couldn't go and visit anybody and nobody could come and visit me. So, of course, George was here 24/7. He was my sounding board and my driver, and he always said, as long as Lyn is doing fine, I'm fine. and that's the way we approached it.
Yep.
Because of my positive attitude, he has a positive attitude as well. And then, of course, there was always, the family and friends that made phone calls and sent emails, and I got, like 24 cards, and, some of my friends even sent flowers, and one of my friends who lives quite a ways away sent gifts. 3 different times she sent a gift in the mail for me. That was very meaningful. So those types of things, sort of makes your positive attitude even more positive, because you have all these people supporting you.
That's so cool, and I'm glad that you had that. There's some folks that don't have that, but it's so critical that you reach out and that other people come to support you and be part of that team, as well as besides the doctors and the nurses. You did some journey. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say I have the support of the Canadian Cancer Society as well.
Yep.
I also have local support from a group called Cancer Resource.
The Cancer Resource
Support Program.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of people there, actually 3 people there that I talk to fairly regularly, and so that's very helpful as well.
Makes a big difference.
And they have a good program going on as well.
Yeah.
They help with parking passes, they help with gas cards. Those are the things that they help me with. There's probably other things that they do as well that I was not in need of, but certainly the personal support was a big deal.
Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Sure.
You did some journaling. Do you have a sec to talk a bit about that? Because you did sort of 2 different journals, didn't you?
Yes, I did. That's one of the things that everybody tells you. You need to keep a journal. You need to write down your thoughts. You need to write down how you're feeling every day. So I did that, and I ended up, over the process, I ended up with 42 typed pages of a journal.
Perfect.
But it was important because every day I wrote, or I typed. I just went directly to my laptop and I typed it. And I wrote down, how I was feeling every day, what I ate every day, how I slept, what my side effects were, how I dealt with the side effects, and how the side effects moved from being an issue to being a non-issue, the timing of all of those things. So that was very helpful for me to go back to after each chemo treatment, because you go through those side effects and then they sort of go away. And then 3 weeks later, I had another chemo treatment, and then, you get the side effects again. And not always the same ones. I had different side effects different times, so I never knew what was coming. It was kind of a surprise. But I had support from my cancer care team at Juravinski, and if I had any questions or problems or issues, I just called, and someone always was able to help. So that was another thing that made sense. I set up a scale of 1 to 5 in my journal to give myself a rating of how I felt every day. And, 1 was feeling the worst possible you could feel, which I never had a 1.
Yeah.
And 5 was feeling the best that I could feel, and I had lots of 5. So there's, another reason to keep track, because then you can go back on that and say, hey, it wasn't really as bad as it could have been, and it wasn't really as bad as maybe I thought it would be. So that helps you keep your positive attitude as well. The second journal that I did was sort of a recap of each day. It was just like 2 or 3 lines with using that scale of 1 to 5. And I made that to give to my chemotherapy doctor, my oncologist. She thought that was just the greatest thing she'd ever seen. And she kept copies of it in my file. So anybody that was part of the cancer care team could look at that and know, what was going on with me like every day. So that was kind of neat too.
I can't.
The other thing that I did past my journal was I emailed many family and friends with updates about my treatment process.
Yeah.
And I think that was important for me to do that, to keep in touch with them, and important for them so they knew how I was doing. Because, there's a lot of people that are afraid to talk to you.
Yep.
And maybe the email process is an easier way to do that. And so I kept them up to date. So there's probably, maybe 30 people that I sent those email updates out to.
That's great.
And I think it was helpful for me and for them.
I can't stress enough now, and with your mom's story and your story, I got to believe you feel the same way. You cannot stress enough how important it is to get that mammogram yearly. That's got to be the critical point for your story, is just getting in there and doing it, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Because I was having my mammograms annually, if it had been every 2 years, which is the normal, I think this tumor had another year to grow. Yeah. So being in there for that mammogram, and even for people that are only on a 2-year basis, just get in there and get it. It's there's so much. The machines are so much better now, and they can find things that you cannot find in a physical exam. And my surgeon told me that. She said, Lyn, your tumor was so small, and where it was positioned, no physical exam by you or any doctor would have found it. Oh. So the mammogram found it for us, and it was removed, in quick order. Yep. And who knows what would have happened, and how my journey would have been different if that had not been the case. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling people, women, get out there, get that mammogram. It's 5 minutes of discomfort that could save your life. And, you said to me, Dave, one time, Lyn, it probably saved your life. And I'm thinking probably it did.
Did you have yours done locally? Your mammograms?
I'm sorry?
Do you have your mammograms done locally? Like, is it at Norfolk General? Where do you?
Yes.
See, there you go, folks.
Right at Norfolk General, yeah.
Exactly.
They have one of the newest mammogram machines. I mean, I think there was probably was a fundraiser just to buy it. Yeah. I mean, they cost more than $1 million. That's where I had my mammogram, and I'm actually going to be doing my follow-ups there as well. I said to my oncologist, she said, where do I have to have these follow-up mammograms? And she said, well, you can come to here at Juravinski, and we'll do them here. And I said, well, can I get it done in Simcoe? And she said, well, if you want to. I said, look, the machine in Simcoe at Norfolk General Hospital was the one that found the tumor in the first place. Yeah. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to, have the technicians there do my follow-up mammograms. And she said, absolutely.
And one more point
local is not a problem.
Yeah, one more point I want to stress with you too, that I had a family member a few years back who had to go to Juravinski, and I got to be honest with you, it blew my mind how many people were in there, like how many folks are struggling with cancer, and how important it is that we we find a cure. And I think you probably saw the same thing, right, when you were inside those doors.
I did. Every age, male, female, every age from babies right up to 90-year-olds, toddling along or in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And they're all there at the Jurgenski Cancer Center. That's all they do there.
Yeah.
You're not there for any other reason. No. And that place is humming every day.
It tells you we got to find a cure for this. Can I ask a personal question?
Sure, go ahead.
What did you learn about yourself on this journey? Because, like you said, you're a very positive person, and our conversations, I've really enjoyed having these chats with you. Is there anything that you can sort of share with the audience that you kind of brought to light in your life?
Well, yeah. Ironically enough, my chemo doctor asked me the same thing at my last meeting with her in August. She said, what has this journey taught you, and what did you find out about yourself that you didn't know before? Well, I'm not sure there's anything that I didn't know before, but you just don't think about it. And the one thing that I was realizing was that I had this inner strength and resolve that maybe you don't realize you have, like on a day-to-day basis, just, living your life, your normal routine. But when something like that happens, you realize in how you deal with it, how much strength you have because of some kind of trauma going on in your life. Yeah. And the resolve was there. I resolved myself that I was going to do this. I learned to, and the other thing I might mention too is a learning process where I learned to trust the science, trust the doctors, trust all the nurses and technicians, trust the medicine and the machinery. I mean, it all goes together, and you have to trust that and know that it's going to work and feel it's going to work and be positive that it's going to work.
That's amazing. Like I truly believe that too. You don't know your own limits, and it's amazing what people are capable of. And to battle cancer, especially, like you've got to have that built-in internal fortitude to want to get it done. CIBC Run for the Cure, October 3rd. Go to the Facebook page for the Simcoe event. It's virtual. There's 5K runs. Is there any last message you want to share with the folks, Lyn, before we let you go today?
Ladies, get that mammogram. It'll save your life.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time, Lyn, and doing this. Please stay good health. Let's talk soon. And thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for calling, Dave.
Take care.